as well as the president of AFT Local 1481, the union who's co-sponsoring this event tonight with a League of Women Voters. Just pull it back. Yeah, just go ahead and fade back. And I'm multitasking, as we do in public schools. So I'd like to, again, welcome everyone here tonight. Again, this is a pretty important election for us. This is the first time since 2002 that we've actually had an election for our school board, and I'm really excited that there has been so much interest in finding out about the candidates, which is why we wanted to have these two candidate forums. Ultimately, the people that we elect will be making some important decisions that will affect the lives of young people, the amazing young people of the Jefferson Union High School district. So on that note, why don't we actually hear from one of those young people? We have a wonderful senior, Ameni Mahmoud, who would like to speak with you tonight.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome all the teachers, staff, students, families, and community members tonight to the JUHSD School Board Candidates Forum. I've been fortunate enough to be a student here at Oceana for the past 3 years, which is why tonight is important for me, as it should be for all of us students. The school board members play a major role in the education we receive. They affect our curriculum and the content that we learn. They decide on policies that set the direction of our district. As we all know, Oceana has a unique curriculum compared to the other schools in the district, and it was the school board who allowed us to keep this curriculum and maintain it for all these years. For those of us who are seniors, this event is significant to us because it's important for us to know who will continue to build and run the community that we have been a part of for the past 4 years. Even more so, those of us who are turning 18 before the next election can actually vote for the school board members in order to be a part of the development of our community and be a part of the Oceana and JUHSD community even after we graduate. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thanks. Well, good evening. I'm Kathy Tyson. I'm with the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County. First, I have a couple of announcements. If you could silence your cell phones, that would be very helpful. Also, there is no campaign literature or other material allowed inside the room. I don't think that's a problem, but just wanted to let you know that. Like I said, I'm with the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County, and we would like to thank the AFT 1481 for co-sponsoring this candidate forum with us. The League of Women Voters is a non-partisan political organization of both men and women whose purpose is to promote active and informed participation in government. We appreciate the interest of groups like the AFT in presenting events that help increase the voters' awareness about candidates and issues. The purpose of this candidate forum is to provide an opportunity for all of the candidates to be heard at one time and to answer questions from the public. We hope that by bringing the public and the candidates together face to face, that the voters will be better informed so that you can make an informed decision on Election Day. We appreciate your interest in coming out tonight. So tonight you will hear from the candidates for Jefferson Union High School District. There are 5 candidates running for 3 open seats. The term of office is 4 years. In the interest of time and fairness, please hold your applause until the end of the forum. Okay? We will thank all the candidates at one time. The purpose is to provide a nonpartisan setting for undecided voters to hear all the candidates. So it's not for the supporters or the opponents of any particular candidate to demonstrate personal preference. So hold your applause and your enthusiasm till the end, okay? The candidates we have with us this evening are Andy Lee, Nick Occhipinti, and Rosie Tejada. Katherine Zarate Dulaney will be joining us later, and we're not sure if Mr. Taylor will be joining us or not. These are the ground rules. The opening statements, each candidate will have 2 minutes. Then, during the question and answer period, each candidate will have 1 minute to speak. And closing statements will be another 2 minutes. My timekeeper is Marie Baldessari. She's seated in the front row. She will hold up warning signs when the candidates have 1 minute, 30 seconds, and when their time is up. I also have an usher, Mary Nobrega, who has been passing out 3x5 cards. We will be taking written questions, and if you could make them legible, I would really appreciate that. Thank you. Questions of a personal nature or that are directed at any one candidate will not be asked. Okay? All questions come to the moderator and I will sort them. And usually we have so many questions that we have to rephrase and combine them. So if you don't hear your question asked just the way you wrote it, that's why. Okay? So before the forum started, the candidates drew lots for speaking order. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to speak. And our first candidate we will be hearing from is Rosie Tejada. Ms. Tejada?
Thank you. That's awfully loud. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, Oceana High School, and the AFT 1481 for hosting this. It's really nice to see a lot of young people here. I actually recognize one young lady who registered to vote. So thank you for that, registering to vote at FogFest. It was awesome. I'm glad I was there. I also, I just want to say that I grew up in this school district. I grew up in the Jefferson Union High School District. I grew up in Daly City. I went to Jefferson High School. I have a child he's a senior at Westmoor. And I have a 10-year-old daughter who's at an elementary school in Daly City who in 4 years will be a high school student. And one of my friends here in Pacifica told me he's also got a 10-year-old. And he sees that there is change coming. And he wants me on the school board for both our daughters. And I'm thinking for all of our kids. Excuse me, I have some nerves here. But so I would sincerely like to hear from all of you about what you want out of our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Rosie Tejada. And now we will hear from Andy Lee. Mr. Lee?
Hi there. Thank you very much to all of you who are here, Oceana High School, League of Women Voters, parents, friends out there. Those of you who don't know me, I've been an active parent volunteer in Pacifica for past 14 years, something like that. It's been a long time. It all began actually at Ocean Shore School when my daughter was in kindergarten. I drove her on her first field trip to Arata Farms at Halloween. And and has continued on to helping out with her at Terra Nova High School, where she is currently a junior, with the theater, helping out with the PTO, and just getting involved in different ways in our school community. Why do I do this? It's for the kids. I see the joy she's had at school. I see the joy I see with my son, who is in 8th grade at Ocean Shore, when his dad and his mom are there in the schools with him. So for me, taking this next step to be on the board of this incredible district is actually a natural step in the evolution that is me as a volunteer plus actually, because they pay you just a smidge. This is actually, I'm doing this for the kids. I see the value that this district has given my daughter. I see the value that it will be giving my son next year. And I want to see all these students here get that same benefit. And I wanted to see that continue on. I will be a parent in this district for the next 4 years, and which would be the life of a term, and I look forward to serving you.
Thank you. That was Andy Lee, and now we'll hear from Nick Occhipinti.
Thank you. I wanted to thank first everybody for showing up. This is a good turnout. I am also a product of this district. I actually went here for those of you I've subbed for, which has been more random and rare in other times, or seeing the community, be it ceremony or out here or wherever. It's always good to be here. You also know that I went here for 1 semester. I came to Oceana because it was different and because it was reputed to be an academic school and you know, top tier and that kind of thing. Every school will promote itself to like the nth degree when you're in 8th grade, and I think that's great. But see, we even have animals like flying to the classroom. This is how diverse our population is, because it is, you know. And that's one of the things I liked about Oceana. It was different. You know, I'm glad I started high school here. It was too small for my personal preference at that time. It was smaller than 400 people. Around that, about half of us were freshmen. So I wanted a bigger high school atmosphere. I just wanted to do more things. I saw that, and I felt like a lot of my friends who went to the regular high schools probably could have benefited from going to a place like Oceana. And so when Ceremony Del Rey was closed down, which I don't think closing down any school ever is an option, but a lot of those people fled to the other schools, so I was like, now we get more students at Oceana right after I transferred. So I went to Westmoor. For those of you guys who are students who know that story, I told you guys, it's about what's the best environment for you, and so I think it's good to be here. I'm a teacher, I've been an activist and community organizer, and a longtime volunteer with the district. I used to work at Thornton. I've been subbing mostly between Terranova and Jeff, actually, and now more recently at Oceana when I do get a chance to sub, but anyways, I'm glad to be here. I'm sure we'll talk about all the issues, and I'm glad to see all the students in the crowd. That's exciting because I was very active as a college student, and that you guys are still here now, be it for homework or for any purpose, is really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Nick Occhipinti. Now we come to the question and answer portion of our forum. There were note cards. And if you have filled one out and would like a question, just raise your hand or pass it down to the aisle, and Mary will collect them and ferry them up to me. If you need another note card, just raise your hand and let her know. Okay? All right. Our first question. What do you see as the biggest issue facing the Jefferson Union High School District? And let's start with Mr. Lee.
Frankly, the biggest issue is keeping our amazing teachers and paying them what they deserve. I've seen the value in having teachers here for an extended period of time. When I see that my daughter has had the same French teacher for the past 3 years, that means she's got a relationship with that teacher, and that teacher can write her a teacher recommendation for college next year, or a recommendation for a job. She's had the same science teacher for the 2nd year in a row this year. And I want to see more of our kids have relationships with their teachers. Again, if we can keep them and retain them, we will certainly generate greater student success.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada, what do you see as the biggest issue facing the Jefferson Union School District?
Well, I also believe that we have to keep our teachers, retaining our teachers. Our strategic plan for the school district, one of our core values is that our staff is our greatest asset. And that means recruiting, training, retaining highly qualified employees who consistently exhibit a positive example, genuine caring, and great enthusiasm. And I see that in all of our teachers. So they are the ones who will impact our children the most. My son at Westmoor, he did not always speak up for himself, but there was one teacher who encouraged that. And now he speaks up all the time. And I think this is a lifelong lesson for him that he can take with him everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Occhipinti.
Yeah, I think when we think about public education, one of the first things that comes to mind is this a good school? And when I was a student, like a high school student, I always thought that question was a little bit off, because all the schools that I went to were always underfunded, were always seen as a bad school, or a school that some parents didn't want to send their kids to, right? Or they'd rather send them to another school because it wasn't in that area. So budget and money always comes to mind. I think it's a challenge on two levels. One, to meet the constraints of our own budgets, which are real. But two, to think about in different terms. When we think about budget cuts, we think, where do we cut? But if we take that a step back and think, where can we expand, or where are we not receiving that money? It's a county, state, and federal negotiation. And there's revenue in our communities from businesses and other places we can find money. There can be an oil tax measure. They have it in Texas. It funds universities. We can amend Prop 13 while protecting homeowners. We can even have a progressive tax and tax the rich. So there are other options, and I think we can all meet those challenges together.
Thank you. One of the major issues facing districts are STEM classes. What do you intend to do to promote and encourage higher math and the sciences? And this time we'll start with Ms. Tejada.
Well, one of the most impressive things I've seen in the school district are our robotics programs, and they're prime examples of STEM. And they are actually led by volunteers at Jefferson and Terra Nova, and they've made these great strides in empowering our kids, and it completely incorporates Common Core. They work in groups, they work together, they have to plan their robotics, they have to write about it and share it with each other, and then compete and explain their robotics to a group of judges. And I think that's a prime example of STEM. I would love to see robotics programs at every school in this district.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Part of this is the fact that we need to promote our STEM programs, our science, our technology, our math programs. We know, like Ms. Tejada said, of the great programs at Jefferson and Terra Nova with regards to robotics, and we need to keep publicizing that. I think it's real easy for middle school parents or even elementary school parents to not know and pay attention to to all the great things happening at our schools. And I think it's about communication back into our community about the things that are happening, especially with regards to these programs, because we know that that parents are looking for these types of opportunities for their kids.
Thank you. Mr. Occhipinti, what do you feel the district can do to promote and encourage higher math and science?
Yeah, I was actually really focused on science when I was in high school. I don't know how many students here are really into science. I read a lot of Spider-Man growing up. I don't know about you guys, but for that reason, I took 2 years of chemistry. One, to take it, and then two, with the rest of the students that petitioned to get an AP chemistry class, because our teacher, there was no program at Westmoor at that time. So he's like, I'll only take you guys on if you took 1 year. You know, that way I know you're legit. We're like, all right, so we did it. So a lot of us, needs to say, did our best, and it's like college chemistry. So some AP classes are like that, but across the board, whether you're an advanced student or consider yourself that, I teach math now. I'm just a credential I'm pursuing, and I feel like they're some of the most disempowering subjects when they're not taught right. But with Common Core, there's a potential to improve that. A lot of math and science teachers, guys, give them a break. They're not always the best communicators, just keeping it real. That was my experience in high school and growing up, and you might find that I've been in yours. But we can improve those, and I think promoting that should be also in step with the arts. It shouldn't be this or that. So you guys who are more social science and humanities oriented, you can also be great at science. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Ms. Dulaney, what would you do to promote and encourage higher math and science classes?
Thank you. First, I want to apologize for being late. I was at an event that promoted prevention of domestic violence. It's very near and dear to my heart, and I made a commitment many months ago. So if I only knew that it was scheduled on the same day, I would have suggested just a little bit more time to come back here. So thank you. Very quickly, I'm really supportive, and I believe that math and science programs, higher math and science programs, are critical to our programs offered to our students. One, I would make sure that we improve and increase the number of course offerings for our students that are interested in math, science, and programming. So much, our world has changed, and we need to be able to offer our students the relevant courses they need to excel. 2, I want to support our teachers, and 3, I want to listen to our students and hear what they want from our school.
Thank you. In your view, what has the district done well over the past 5 years? What has the district done poorly that you would change? And this time we'll start with Mr. Occhipinti.
It's hard to gauge sometimes. I was always had my criticisms of, like, you know, anything. Like when I was at college, I was like, I got to, out of Westmoor, I got into UCLA, which was like an amazing feat. I got rejected from Berkeley, so I was a little bitter. But I got over that quickly when I got to UCLA. I was like, this is amazing. And I realized, looking around me, that the diversity of students at UCLA did not reflect that in my community. And then I thought about my community, and I thought, well, even at Westmoor, there were hardly any Filipino students in my AP classes. What's up with that? And then I realized that I was one of the only Latino students at UCLA that left Westmoor. And then I did the math on that. And I thought about the whole district, and I was like, that's played, man. They're trying to, you know, they're not trying to let public education, you know, see its day. So there's a lot of things within the district we can look at, but I think beyond that, in the colleges, creating preparation for college in many ways incorporates changing the tracking within our schools, allowing flexibility, expanding the pools of classes you can get into. With those who are ELL learners, why aren't we having Spanish AP? They could be brilliant tutors and mentors to those who are learning that language. So there are a lot of things we can improve on, but yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada, your thoughts.
Well, what comes to mind right now is, I've been on the board since March, and it was an eye-opener for me to see how many teachers are so passionate about the direction our school district is going in. And what I've learned that we've done well is making do with what we have when we don't have enough. It just seems like we've been in survival mode for so long, and now we finally have the opportunity to think about what our students need and that we have some sort of stability to make this happen. What I really think we've done poorly is our communication. As a parent, I did not know what was going on in the school district. I would go on that website and I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I'm glad that our school district and the board is putting together a communication plan to improve this.
Thank you. Mr. Lee?
One of the things that I've noticed in my past years as a parent here, it has been the amazing sense of community in the schools. I had a chance actually not long ago to go to the Jefferson PTSA meeting, and the amazing sense of parent community there was really evident. And I certainly see that in the Terra Nova community as well. And there's the encouragement to get parents involved. If you have something you want to do, go for it. You know, they will take you, and it's up to you to create a new pathway of involvement at the school. The weakness, I would agree with Ms. Tejada actually, is communication. How much hearsay is there about some of the programs at our schools, about the type of student at our schools, the type of community behavior at our schools, that, you know, you hear about something that went on at a dance which was actually a positive dance, and yet you go down to elementary schools and they hear something absolutely 100% completely wrong and about that school. So we need to, again, take charge of our communications about the great things happening at our schools.
Thank you. And Ms. Dulaney?
Thank you. What we're doing well, one, I believe that we're doing a great job supporting academic achievement for our students and providing our students with a career path if they don't want to go through the traditional 4-year college or 2-year college route. I'm so proud to tout that our graduation rate is so much higher than the state average graduation rate. Our attendance is much better again than the state average. Our scores are significant, Oceana being one of them, extremely well. Jefferson has increased in terms of achievement the most in our county. Two, we were able to weather through the financial crisis by saving a lot of jobs. And we were able to weather through that and come out of it. And we recently gave our teachers a 6% raise, which they really critically deserve, and they deserve more. What we're not doing, one, we're not marketing our students enough well with the need to achieve, and two, retention.
Thank you. The next question, what are your thoughts on Common Core? Because as most of you know, that is being implemented this year, and there are a lot of questions and issues around it. This time we'll start with Ms. Dulaney.
Thank you. I am a big supporter of Common Core in terms of the principles. The principle teaches, it highlights and emphasizes integrated learning. And in a world today where we're not just spouting 1 + 1 or even complicated math concepts, they're not static, they're integrated. We use them every day. We think. Common Core promotes critical thinking. Now, the issue is really on how we implement it, and implement it well. And that is still in process. We really need to reach out and listen to stakeholders, teachers, students, administrators, staff, community members, and how to best implement Common Core. And it's an ongoing process, and I encourage you as audience here tonight to be involved with that process, because we just started it and we've just begun, and our success really depends on everybody's involvement.
Thank you. Mr. Occhipinti, your thoughts on Common Core?
Yeah, I actually had the privilege of teaching along Common Core guidelines this summer, teaching math. So one of the things I think, and I mentioned this earlier, is tough is to translate numbers into language. And I think that that's something that all of us struggle with on some level, but that teachers have to shoulder this creates two things. One, a new standard. I remember bubble tests, standardized tests you guys are familiar with. The SAT has always been a barrier to college for many people, or at least perceived barrier. And it has its own flaws. So a new standard, of course, built along national guidelines, is based off the results that, as time will tell, in the East Coast and Midwest, reflect a different population than on the West Coast. We're a much more diverse population with different learning needs, different language barriers, and advantages and opportunities. So I think that implementing it will rely a lot on the teachers, and remember, the teachers aren't getting paid extra to develop this new curriculum. We can't even use the same textbooks. As many students know, you may have to explain your answers on math tests. So challenges are many, but I think we can meet them.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada?
Well, Common Core is the law, and it's a huge, huge undertaking. There are going to be some bumps in the road, some growing pains and challenges. But we just have to make sure that our teachers have enough professional development so that we can allow them to have the creativity that they can, in their classrooms, to teach the Common Core principles. It allows for a lot of creativity. I know a teacher at the elementary school district who's extremely excited about Common Core. It's difficult. There is going to be some challenges for this whole next year, but we have to stay on top of it and make sure we revisit, check in with the teachers constantly, and also with our students to make sure that they're getting what they need. Thank you.
And Mr. Lee.
I think one of the examples that sticks out for me actually is with my daughter's dance class last year, when she had to choreograph a dance and then write a one-page paper explaining that dance. Me being as dense as I am, if I'm looking at a dance, I don't know what it means. It just looks pretty to me. But if I can read that paper and it's explaining to me what each hand motion, what each jump, what each twirl means, then she has done her job in explaining to me what it is. And that's what this curriculum does, is it allows the student to understand and express the things that he or she is doing, both whether it's math, whether it's dance, whether it's history, etc. I mean, don't you, as adults who are in the working world, use that type of thinking? I use it every day when I'm looking at budgets versus actual dollars expended.
Okay, our next question. Many Pacifica families leave Pacifica to send their children to private high schools. What will you do to retain these students in the Jefferson district? And this time we'll start with Mr. Lee.
Again, it actually begins with retaining our teachers. So, which means if we're going to do that, we need to increase our revenue. And how do we do that? Again, we spend in the short term. We spend more on our teachers in the short term so that they'll stick around. If they stick around, there's relationships with their students. Parents talk. Parents will tell them, my kids had the same French teacher for 3 years. When that happens, more parents in middle school and elementary school will realize, wow, these schools actually are keeping their teachers. I might not have to drop $40,000 a year on private school. I can send my kid to a JUHSD's campus and know that they're going to get a great education because the teachers are there. And when that happens, we are increasing revenue because more of our kids stay in the district.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada?
We've got great schools here. I love this school district. I grew up here, and now that I'm a part of the board, just getting to see all the different teachers, students, programs, I'm really excited about it, but nobody knows. Nobody knows how great we are, all the great programs we have, not just in the arts. We have amazing arts, but I can't wait to be an evaluator at the senior exhibition this year. I signed up right away because, well, part of it is one of my best friends, her son goes to school here, he's a senior. And maybe I'll be able to be one of his evaluators, I don't know. But it is really exciting to see all the great things that we're doing. And part of our communication plan that I hope you all will take part in, like you did with the strategic plan, is to let everyone know just how great our schools are and all the different programs that we can offer, and to keep these students in our schools and not let them go off to a private school.
Thank you. Ms. Dulaney, your thoughts?
Every parent wants for their student, their child, the best. They want the best in everything. They want the best education. They want the best teacher. They want the best students who go to school with their child. They want the best. And I think, as my fellow candidates have mentioned, it's really important for us to market our schools as the best for their child. And we need to do better at not only on communications, but 2, our programs. 3, making sure we attract the students that are going to the private schools and understand what those reasons are. So it's a big, it's a long journey, but it's one that I know that the board and my fellow candidates are committed to do.
Thank you. And Mr. Occhipinti.
Yes, good question. Though we all know the private schools are overrated, right? We're all here public schools, right? I mean, and that part is obvious. Any student who's thinking, and parent who's thinking about taking their kid to the next level, their high school, teenager, or whatever it is, yeah, you want to send them to a good school, but a school is good. We know that by the time we're teenagers is what you put into it. What the parents put into it, obviously, too, and what the teachers put into it. And we all know that people are trying their best within the schools. The question becomes, why do you think one school is better than another? That is a question a parent thinks about and a question a student thinks about. When I was a student, my brother was like an all-city athlete, so what school is the school that you can get scouted to a D1 college, to an advanced student who is honors tracking, and thinking, how can I get into UC or an Ivy League college? You can do that from public schools. Public school students know that. Their parents know that. We know that. I think as a board and as a community, marketing our schools is absolutely essential, but it starts at the junior high level and beyond that. So.
Okay. Well, we know that one way to keep students in the district is to get them and their families involved. So what are your thoughts on how the district and the various sites can encourage involvement and participation from families? And this time we'll start with Ms. Dulaney.
One is to really emphasize the importance of involvement and to show that parent involvement has a direct relationship with the success of a child and the success of the school's ability to provide the best opportunities for the student. 2 is to encourage and to bring the parents to events, and that means to personally reach out to parents to see and to believe in that their involvement is critical to their student success. And 3, it's to provide events that parents are interested in attending and that their students want their parents to attend. So I think that it's a community effort, and I believe that the district could do a much better job at improving the involvement of our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Occhipinti?
Yeah, it reminds me, I used to work for the former Park and Rec Department, Daly City, and so we would actually go to the different school sites, the different high schools, and try to get events going where we would have students do whatever they want to do. We plan it, we help them plan it, work with the student governments, whatnot. The students, I think, are the primary outlet for any and all family involvement in school. And it's tough for parents when kids are in high school, when youth are in high school and trying to make things happen, to be able to support those youth in whatever they're doing. Even if it's going on Friday to see a movie. Like, there's just no time, no money, people are working too much. There are a few ways, though, and I think some of those outlets can be through working with community organizations, meet the people halfway, meet parents, the family halfway. We have a lot of social networking nowadays we didn't have 10 years ago. Even like 7, 8 years ago, a lot of parents are starting to get online, whereas youth have been online for a while, using those social networks. I don't know that an iPhone app would help that, but I think definitely communication would. And I think that one of the things you can start with is with the colleges and getting out and being part of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, how would you encourage participation by families?
Okay. People will give their time and money to a vision. You give them a vision of something that they can achieve with their families, together with their students, they will do that. Whether it's a sports booster club, where they can support their football team, their soccer team, etc., whether it's band, whether it's theater, whether it's raising money for a class to go to prom and graduation. Set a vision, set something that they can see, that they can get involved with, and they will say, hey, I'm gonna get involved. With the theater boosters that I'm involved with, we actually had our first meeting a month ago, and whereas last year we had maybe 3 or 4 parents show up for every meeting all year to support the theater program, we actually had 25 parents, including several freshman parents and freshman parents who actually don't have their kid in the fall production. And that, to me, is the fact that they're getting involved with a vision. They see what their kid can get out of it and what the community can get out of it.
Thank you. And Ms. Tejada.
Well, I've been involved in PTAs, PTSAs throughout my children's educations, and that's how I've always gotten involved and partnered with the schools. And you get this impression that once you get to the high schools that, oh, it's not the same thing because you're not volunteering in the classroom anymore, you know, doing bake sales, but you can still get involved and partner with these PTAs. And for instance, like the PTO at Terra Nova, they raise a lot of money to help provide equipment for like their science department, which is very impressive to me. And you know, and I think that if we have more community events, that because I know I like to see like productions that my kids and their friends are in. And so if we have more community events, like we had a luau at Westmoor at one point, where a lot of the students were performing, and so of course they brought their parents and their aunts and uncles, and so it just had a great feel to it.
Thank you. Continuing along that same line, what programs would you like to create or provide for the district? And we'll start with Mr. Occhipinti.
That's a great question. When I was working with Park and Rec, we tried very hard to merge whatever program we had after school into in-school programming. One of those things with ethnic studies. I think that the teaching in various subjects is really cool, but it's cool also to have the opportunity to take electives that you can also see in college. One of the classes I took at Westmoor was sociology, and then they changed the name to current events, something I was disappointed, because there were things like, well, I was like, how am I going to use that in my college, application? Was it look good for or whatever? And also, like, what am I getting out of that? We had journalism classes, and then they were gone. We had computer literacy classes, but coding classes don't exist yet, for the most part. Journalism classes, you can incorporate graphic design. In terms of programming, that's just in-school programming, extracurricular activities, and activities that exist at other schools. There are AP offerings at other schools we could expand. There are programs for special ed and for different tracking within the schools that we could expand. And ELL learners have a lot to offer to schools that we haven't even tapped into. And after-school programming as well, working with the colleges, career centers. That was something that was a big part of my life in high school, and I hope to see that continue.
Thank you, Ms. Tejada.
I think the first thing that came to mind was life management classes, because I think, my son is taking a life management class. It's a CTE class, and it's as a senior, although there are some juniors there. And when I went to back to school night, it was really interesting what they teach, and it's to get a portfolio together, how to go to an interview, how to balance a checkbook. What is a checkbook? What's a savings account? But then there's also, which I'm excited about, is there's when they have a computerized baby. It's an actual doll that has a chip in it, and it will cry. And you have it for the entire week. If you've got cross-country practice, you have to make sure that your partner, you make childcare, you have to arrange for childcare. And what I know is going to happen is that when the baby starts crying in my son's room, grandma's going to end up getting up and looking after that baby, and auntie is not going to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dulaney, your thoughts.
Thank you. I have three of them, three categories. One is remedial and after-school programs. Two, relevant coursework, which include robotics, which include STEM programming, which include a whole host of programs that are interesting and relevant to our students' career path and interests, and that is a function of our students communicating to us what is really interested in them, because it changes. And one I can't dictate what those relevant courses are or will be, but what I can do is listen to what is the general interests of our students. And three, I do believe that we need to continue and improve our support for the arts. That includes performing arts. That includes the correct. I'm going to art and painting and so forth and so forth, and journalism. Those are my top three priorities.
Thank you. And Mr. Lee.
Ms. Dulaney actually nailed her last point was actually mine. She pirated that. The arts. It really, the performing arts in particular is near and dear to my heart. Serving on a board of a local nonprofit art school and seeing the value that my daughter has had in performing at Terra Nova's amazing new theater. I also would love to see better usage of that theater. It shouldn't sit unused during the summer. But when I look at what the kids have, what I've seen them do last year with Little Shop of Horrors, with the fact that kids were actually running the sound, lights, and the fly in that theater, I want to see. In fact, how am I supposed to know what's going on if I don't ask them? How do I know what's going on at the schools if I'm not asking the teachers, if I'm not asking the staff? I manage a staff of employees. How do I know what's going on in my department if I'm not talking to them? My success is related to their success. So it's no different approaching this from a board level. I need to hear from the students. I need to know what's going on in their lives, what's working, what's not. I want to know from the teachers what's working, what's not. Remember, why am I here? It's for the kids.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada.
Well, I have a teen, and sometimes he doesn't talk to me. He'll just say, I'll sense, as a mom, you sense, what's going on? How's it going? Fine. And then that's how you know, don't push it. If I have students who want to be involved and who actually speak up and say, this is what I want. This is what I need in my school. This is what we want in our school district. Gotta listen. They're the ones there, and they're going to lead the other students who are coming behind them. And I was really impressed when we had our LCAT meetings, because we actually had a lot of students participating. And I just was so impressed with it. And it just made me more impressed with the students in this school district.
Thank you. Ms. Dulaney?
The reason why I'm doing this, the only reason why I'm doing this, is because I want our students to excel. I have no other reason than to see the best, see that the best is given to our students, and that's what drives me to do this. I believe that we need to empower, we need to motivate, and we need to highlight the successes of our students. Our district offers so much to our students, and I want our students to graduate here feeling proud of our district and feeling confident that they could go out to the workforce and tackle the world. I believe that we affect the board's every single decision that the board makes affects the students, and so that's why I think it's extremely critical to empower the students in a way that they are involved, that they come to the hearings, the board meetings, and they express their voice.
Thank you. And Mr. Occhipinti?
Yeah, I'm here for a lot of reasons. Some of you may know I actually ran for city council in Daly City a couple times. I tried to get people I knew to run, and they wouldn't do it. They're like, "Are you crazy? I'm running for office. I'll be never hired in this city again." I'm like, "Yeah, well, one of us ain't gonna be, so it might as well be me or you." And a lot of us have been doing work in the city for a long time. Honestly, as activists, as community organizers, I'm doing this for the same reason I've always done it. I had a younger brother who was 2 grades after me at Westmoor. He used to come by and talk about financial aid. Whatever it was, what my experience was at UCLA. That was crazy, going from Westmoor to UCLA. People at UCLA wouldn't believe I went to Westmoor. They just looked at me funny like, "How'd you get here?" And I wanted to bring that back to Westmoor and all the other schools I work with. So I TA'd at Thornton, working with youth at Thornton for a long time. I learned a lot from them, as much as I hope they learned from me, being a career and college counselor. So, I honestly see a piece of me in all of you, and that's what makes this job worth it. So it makes me, feel like it's worthwhile becoming a teacher. It's not about the money. It's not about, this isn't about any fame or anything, but that I see that we can relay that back home.
Thank you. What do you know about current plans to provide an equitable education for students in our district? What has been tried in the past, and was it successful? And this time we'll start with Ms. Dulaney.
I was writing down all those questions, the subparts. That's okay. First, I think that our strategic plan really is the direction that we need to, that the strategic plan reflects the importance that our district, the emphasis on equitable opportunities and access to all different students of all different backgrounds and abilities. The strategic plan, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with it, was the product of stakeholders, parents, teachers, students, input on what are priorities. And one of them is making sure that we are supportive in many ways of our students. The second part of your question was?
What has been tried in the past, and was it successful?
And there's my time. Well, thank you.
Okay. Let's try Mr. Lee.
That's a good question, and to be fair, because I'm relatively new to this process, I don't think I can really speak honestly to that question. But what I can say is that I think looking at the strategic plan for the district, looking at the resources that we have, making sure that we, again, are spreading our resources equitably amongst all the schools, amongst all the different programs, looking at ways to increase our revenue by keeping more of our students in our district, which will, again, provide us with additional income to be able to do the work that we want to do. Looking at, we've established a baseline, and let's see what additional things we can do going forward, rather than spinning our wheels like we may have done in the past, or so I understand.
Mr. Occhipinti?
Yeah, there are a lot of things I think can be said about equity. Having new fields at all of our campuses. Equity. Getting new books on a certain year. Equity. Having new class offerings. Not quite. Having new programs after school or new sports. Not necessarily. And so students can tell you what works and what doesn't. I remember working at Jeff for a while when I first started subbing, and they had what was called a small learning community structure that young teachers and a lot of the students actually liked. It was counterintuitive to me because I went to a high school where you could take any class anywhere and you saw your friends in junior high, maybe or not, unless you were tracked, specifically where you didn't see your friends in the hallways, unless you went to Oceana and there's only one hallway and a half. And then so you would see somebody inevitably unless they got to class before you did. And you hadn't happened to stop at their locker, right? But you know, or PE, right, downstairs. But I mean, those are the kind of things, right, like things that work and things that don't. So they changed the policy back to the old school policy, pissed off a lot of teachers and students. And so bringing consensus around those issues is important that way.
And Ms. Tejada?
Well, we can't lose sight of one of our core values, and that's that students come first. Students come first. If you always keep that in mind, there will always be equity. And as a parent on the school board, that's the thing that drives me, is I have to always remember I'm a parent. What is the best thing for our students? What do I want for my child? What do I want for all the kids? And embrace diversity. You have to embrace diversity in every way. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question. What would you do if you disagreed with the district's allocation of resources? And this time we'll start with Mr. Occhipinti.
Yeah, it's one of those questions. It's about budget, right? Allocation resources. Where is money being spent? How is it being spent? Is it being spent where it needs to be spent? Why are we doing fundraisers if we should have funding in from Measure Y? Why are we still chasing funding for sports programs that don't exist at Westmoor, maybe, right? Like a football team. Or any sports program at Oceana, like except for the ones that we have made strides in, including track. I heard in basketball, I've seen some of that work. Mr. Lai has done some outstanding work here. So some of the things that I think bring up around budget are directly related to how much we hear about budget and how involved we can be, right? I don't wake up in the morning and be like, time to read that budget. You know, like it's not something you come across a lot of times. And so allocation, what would I do? I would bring it back to the community. There are alternatives to just cutting budget. We can raise revenue in other ways. We can solicit ideas and opinions and information from the community, state, county, and federal at large as well. And I think those things require all of our involvement and feedback.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada?
As the board, we get to approve the budget. If we don't like how the district is allocating the funds, we don't approve it. We have to get more information. We do a work study. Why are we doing it this way? If we have to question, because it impacts everyone in our community, all these kids. I mean, if we don't like the way the resources are allocated, we have to question, and that's why we're here. If we don't like it, we speak for you, and we don't prove it.
Ms. Dulaney?
There are three things. I go by threes usually. One is I need to understand the rationale for the allocation of the resources. As a board member for several years, that's what I have been doing. First, it's understanding, getting background, getting the facts, and understanding where the money and why the money is going to certain places or certain areas of our budget. Two is disagreeing to the extent that I disagree that there is a misallocation of resources. I would disagree. In my 7 years on the board, I've got to say that I'm proud of our district in that I haven't found a misallocation, but even though that has been in the past, I'm still diligent of making sure that our allocations are fair, equitable, and rational. 3, and to the extent that this is a hypothetical, so to the extent that I do disagree, I need to figure out the solution and collaborate with the stakeholders in finding out that resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
This is my sweet spot. Being a financial professional for the past 20 years, I dig into this stuff. I look into it. I'll call you out on it if I disagree with it. I want to know why. I want to know the reason behind it. I want to know what we can do differently. Maybe there's something else that we hadn't thought of. I would want to speak to not just the staff members at the district office. I would want to speak to teachers who may be impacted. I want to speak to students. These, again, this is all about how are we dividing up the money to best impact our students.
Thank you. Continuing on with the budget discussion, what experience do you have with complicated budgets? And what would be your process to determine whether or not it is a good budget for the district? This time we start with Ms. Tejada.
I don't have a lot of experience with a complicated budget. I don't. I work with PTA budgets, which usually mean fundraising, disbursements on for related to events. I'm not experienced in budget, but I do take the time to examine it because I did take math and I know how to balance a checkbook and I know how to look at something and say, what does that mean? Like anyone else in this room, I just do the best I can.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
This is what I do. This district has about roughly a $45 million budget. I handle a budget that's $60 million, so the numbers don't scare me. This is actually, what it is though, it's looking at the complexity of what is restricted funding, what's unrestricted funding, what can we spend our money on, what can't we spend our money on. And it's really just about dividing it up, digging in and understanding where it's going. Simple as that. It is just math. It's just numbers.
Thank you. Mr. Occhipinti?
Yeah, I remember working with Park and Rec, and we used to always ask, because we would get part-time budget allocated to our time, and be like, you guys can only work 17, maybe 20 hours this week, and be like, man, I'm trying to pay the bills, trying to eat here. And we would never get a copy of that budget. We would never get a copy. It's hard. It's hard sometimes because the people you're working for are not sure if you understand the numbers, or you question some numbers. The same thing exists when you're asking for transparency on a national level. Wall Street isn't disclosing everything it's doing. So the first obstacle in that is actually getting a budget. The second is learning to read it, but it's just something you learn to read. It's just math. Any of us do math. I try to tell my students the same thing. I hope all you guys will tell each other or think about this too. It's not as hard as it looks. It's meant to intimidate, but it's not. It's not that serious in that way. It is serious in the implications though, because there are hidden numbers in there. And a lot of times, I've noticed this from being an activist at the college level, there's money hidden in private accounts, slush funds, and those kind of things exist, and that is why the funding becomes an issue. So.
Thank you. And Ms. Dulaney.
Thank you. I've been on the board for 7 years. I've had 7 years of reading the budget and understanding the budget. But as complicated as long as I have been on the board, it's very complicated and it changes. And I am humble enough to ask the questions that I need to understand the things that I don't. And I'm critical of why certain numbers are where they are, or I ask. I'm detail oriented, and as a lawyer in training, I know how to spot issues, and I know how to identify them, and I know how to address them in a way that is productive and that is that incorporates everybody's input. Thank you.
Thank you. Over the years, the school district has sold or vacated schools. This has increased the number of students per class. Do you see the need to build new schools, or should the number of schools be decreased? And this time we will start with Mr. Lee.
Actually, and just in some conversations I've had over the past week, I think a lot of our campuses actually are under-enrolled. So I don't see that there's a need to build anything new. It's actually just about filling the space that we already have. So again, it comes back to, let's market our district. Let's get these kids in. Let's fill the schools that we have first. Then hopefully, that would actually be a nice problem to have, to be able to build new campuses down the road. I'd love to fill this district, because that means we've got a lot of kids. That means we have a lot of revenue. I mean, think about it. If we even just added 500 students in this district, that's $4.5 million, $9,000 per kid.
Thank you, Ms. Tejada.
Enrollment has been going down, and the whole trick is to try to market our schools so that we don't lose some of these students to private schools, and then we can increase our enrollment. You never want to close a school. I don't think we're not anywhere close to that. I had a lot of friends who went to Oceana High School I grew up with. When they closed that school, there were a lot of unhappy people. And I don't ever want to do that. They don't stop talking about it for 30 years. They closed my school. So you don't ever want to get to that point.
Thank you, Ms. Dulaney.
Thank you. Rather than building, at this point, what I'd like to focus on is improving the safety, improving the infrastructure, and improving the technology at our schools. Technology. We are behind in making sure that our schools are supportive of 21st century learning. We need to have the Wi-Fi, wireless. We need infrastructure. We need the ability to improve our students' ability to have access to computers, to access to the tools that they need to succeed in this really technological world. We need to improve, as safe as our schools are, there's still so much that needs to be done. So much that needs to be done that can't be seen. There have been 10 years of need for safety improvements that we need to do, and that we need funding.
Thank you. And Mr. Occhipinti.
Yeah, I remember when I was here at Oceana, I wasn't, feeling it at the moment, and I was like, if it was a bigger school, I might stick around, but I have to dip. And I had a friend who was like, oh, you're going to go Westmoor, I'll come with you. And I was like, nah, this is bad, man. Now I'm recruiting folks. And so we left. At that time, semesters ended in January, so finals were in January. So when we were leaving, they were saying they're going to shut down Oceana. Then I felt even worse. I was like, what if I started a movement? And I was like, no, dude, obviously it was beyond me, but they were considering shutting it down. I thought that was wrong. I was like, that's horrible, dude. Like, there's hella students there who love that school, and I thought it was well worthwhile to have a school like that in our district. But then they turned around and they shut down Sierra Madre Del Rey instead, and that was 94, 95. And so when I got to Westmoor, I was like, well, that make any sense, because Sierra Madre Del Rey is an even bigger high school than Oceana was in terms of population. So they spread all those students across the district, and they had shut it down for the second time, because I understand they shut down Sierra Madre Del Rey in the 80s. So to do that twice to students in Daly City and Pacifica areas with alternative high school that was right in the middle made no sense to me. But making use of the resources that we have and improving the schools, we have good schools and we should invest in them.
Thank you. What specific steps would you take as a school board member to improve transparency and make school district information more widely available? And this time we'll start with Ms. Dulaney.
Thank you. As a board member now, I really believe in our communication, improving our communications, and that our board is actually in the process of implementing a communication plan that promotes transparency, that promotes communication, that promotes marketing our schools better, and highlighting to the community what is already now at our schools, which is amazing teachers, incredible students, and terrific educational opportunities.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada.
Well, I do agree that I'm excited about this communication plan that we're working on. I do want to work more closely with the superintendent. I have not been on the board very long, but I really feel that if the superintendent is the face of the school district and also sets the tone for the school district. So I've heard of lack of transparency, so we really have to make everyone accountable for carrying out all district operations. And but one really great step is this communication plan.
Thank you. Mr. Occhipinti?
I think communication is key. When you're thinking about what a district comprises, it's the voices of all the people in the community. And I think that even events like this, bringing that closer. A lot of times people aren't going to go to a board meeting. I don't go to board meetings often. I work full-time, I work in the schools, I'll hear these things amongst teachers as a sub. Students will know the comings and goings of these things, but that communication needs to come forward a little bit more and bringing that, actually meeting people halfway outside of board meetings. A lot of political information and policy information that surrounds board decisions isn't always brought forward or translated. So bridging that, I think, is really, really, really important because it makes these issues real. Seeing all you hear tonight makes this real, makes it a real conversation. You guys can bring that back and be like, hey, I saw that sub. I saw people that ran for board. You're going to see them in the voter information ballot. It's something that's real. It's an election. So, yeah, I think that.
Thank you. And Mr. Lee?
Having attended the past handful of board meetings and watching them actually discuss the new communications plan for the district is a really great step forward. Looking at the improved website for not just the district, but for each individual campus. I think, already you see on a limited basis, you see the different PTOs blasting stuff out through Facebook, through other social media. I think there's ways that we can actually finally utilize the full scope of 21st century media to get the word out about the amazing things happening at this campus, at our schools, and as well as the things that are happening at the board level. I mean, each of us up here potentially is going to be one of your elected officials, and we are accountable back to you, and we're here to serve you and the students.
Thank you. Our next question. In your view, what is the role of the Teachers Association and the union in this district? And this time we'll start with Mr. Occhipinti.
Good question. Since I'm actually an employee of the district and a teacher at that, it is almost the same thing as the district. This district is run by its employees, many of whom are represented by the union, who are the union. They put on this, stay up late, open the facilities. Any student knows you need anything, you go see somebody who works here, right? Or another student. So their relationship to the district in terms of, I'm not sure if the question is directed more towards professional stance or whatnot, but it should be open. It should be open in communication. There should be transparency. Accountability is part of transparency, so it should be in good faith that the communication happens in negotiation, and it should bring together all stakeholders, essentially anybody who's involved in the process, right? So that includes students, parents, community, paraprofessional workers who work here part-time, the Park and Rec departments, college students, college organizations who want to get involved to enhance the quality of public education in their community, like be it Skyline, City College, whatnot.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Ms. Tejada.
Well, it's not just the teachers union, but all the separate unions. So I believe we have for classified as well, that we have to be, as a board, really accessible. We need to listen. And because unions are the voice of those that they represent. So you can actually have a whole room full of teachers talking to you, but they have all assembled and chosen, union representatives to speak for them. So they're a very, very important and strong voice, and we have to partner with them.
Mr. Lee?
With respect to the teachers, they're the ones who are with our kids every day. I entrust my daughter to their care every day. You know, we entrust our kids as parents to them every day, more than I see them during the day. You know, so why wouldn't I want to hear what's important to them? Because what's important to them is ultimately important to my kid and important to all of our kids. You know, same thing with facility staff, cafeteria staff. They're feeding our kids. They're taking care of these facilities to ensure that it's safe for our kids. It stands to reason then that I'm going to listen to them. I want to know what makes them tick because I see how much care and effort they put into our kids.
Thank you. And Ms. Dulaney?
Thank you. First of all, I believe that the unions support the backbone of our district. The backbone of our district are our teachers and our staff and administrators. The union supports our teachers and staff in ways that that the district cannot, and that includes giving them a voice, giving them leadership, communicating with the administrators, the board, the governance team in terms of what the teachers need, what the teachers feel needs improvement, and it's also a way for the administrators and the board members to communicate to membership. I also think that the third role of the union in our district is to be part of a family, and I have been here long enough to know that we are a family, and to the extent that we can improve our relationships, I really want to focus on that.
Okay, continuing along in that same line, what should the relationship be between the board, the administration, the parents, the students, the staff, and the community? And we'll start with Ms. Tejada.
Well, we all came together for the strategic plan. It was a huge undertaking. And all of those stakeholders came together to come up with this vision and the mission of our school district, which was not laid out anywhere. And when I first started I was a parent when I worked on the strategic plan, and the school district came to our PTSA meeting, and that was the first time I heard the concerns of other Westmoor parents. They had never shared it before. And it wasn't always just academically based, but they want their children to be happy and to be able to know how to shake hands with someone. Something as simple as that. And this is the way that we got to know each other's needs for our children. So these stakeholders have already come together, and it's really, really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dulaney?
I believe it's a symbiotic relationship. One relies on the other in terms of communication, in terms of support, in terms of motivation. And it all comes back to communication, and that's why we're really emphasizing it in right now at the board level. I also, just like I mentioned before, believe that we are all part of one family, and that's what I love about our district, and I see this as my second family. And one group that I heard missing from that list, it was a long list, but also community members that don't necessarily have children or grandchildren in the district. I still think that they are a stakeholder because what we do in our district affects everybody. And if we don't have an educated if we don't have educated graduates, our whole community suffers.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Again, this is all about our kids. You know, every stakeholder mentioned, board, parent, administration, students, community, that we're all in it for these kids. We are one Jefferson Union High School district community, just at multiple locations among all these cities. And it's pretty cool to see when people come together at these meetings, like the strategic plan or LCAP meetings or PTO meetings, and to hear the concerns, to hear the successes, because we're all doing this because we care about the kids in our community. We want to see them succeed. We want them to see them get their diplomas and become amazing, productive members of our society.
Thank you. And Mr. Occhipinti.
I like the word symbiotic. That's a good way to describe it. I think you should be able to hear everybody's voice everywhere all the time, right? I think that exists in a few places in our community. I think that it exists here in these moments, right? For students that are in the crowd, you're like, what are you talking about? For the parents, you're like, yeah, it should all be one. It's not often, but when I think about all those stakeholders, you have the community, the parents, the students, the faculty, all the staff, business owners, community members, community organizations, colleges, et cetera. We could have a long list. That crossed my mind maybe when I'm at ceremony or something. I'll be walking around, they'd be like, oh, Mr. O, what are you doing here? And I'd be like, I'm eating lunch. What you doing here? You know, like, I didn't have a lunch, remember? We were talking, about different school classes. Like, oh, yeah. Like, those are the places that it crosses past. You have that coordination. People can see things. Oh, my teacher actually eats food in the community, shops, buys shirts at H&M. Yeah, I go there. So we're all there. The college fair, by the way, is next Wednesday, and I feel like that's the kind of thing that...
Thank you. What can we do to keep qualified teachers in the district? And this time we'll start with Ms. Dulaney.
Number one, it comes down to increasing revenue. Revenue to be able to support the increase in salaries and benefits that our teachers wholly deserve. We're working on that. The community has in the past been extremely supportive of our efforts to be able to deal with the finite amount of resources, the limited amount of support from the state, and to approve of parcel tax measures that helped our students, help our district give the long-awaited raises that our teachers needed. Two is communicating better and collaborating more internally to understand what else the district can do to be able to retain the teachers, to be able to improve their satisfaction, to make them feel like they continue to make them feel that they want to stay here in our district.
Thank you. Mr. Occhipinti.
I think teacher retention is not different than student and parent retention. The questions about private school and selling, that versus public school. A lot of parents are already set on going to private school or saying their youth to private school. That's one thing. But students have an idea of what public schools are when they're given those perceptions by people in the community, even other students. Remember when I went to Bend, people were like, oh, Jeff is ghetto. And people were like, oh, Westmoor's ghetto. I'm like, didn't somebody just get shot in front of Westmoor a few years ago? And it's like, oh yeah, Westmoor's more ghetto. Like, it's just, so teacher retention is the same thing. You have teachers who come to a school and they see the resources and they see what they're working with and they see the struggles. 2 years in, they have what's called a BITS, that's a review. For those who don't know, it's a review of the teachers and their processes and their own internal reflections, and they decide whether or not to stay with that school, that district. Other districts also see that when they post jobs. Teacher who's thinking, I can't afford to live in this community anymore because it's gentrification in San Francisco, whatever, is thinking I can make $20,000 2 doors down. I might as well go down Peninsula and make money there, or South Bay or East Bay. So if we can do that, housing issues, those are city policy issues, county, state. It's all have to do with taxes and things that a board can address, and we should that way as a community.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
I have no problem in taking a short-term loss and paying our teachers more. If we invest in the short term, we can retain the quality teachers that we have. Because ultimately, it's more expensive to be on that treadmill of hiring and training over and over again. I've been on that treadmill before, and I don't like it. I'm sure the principals don't like having to spend their summers hiring 50% of new staff at Terra Nova like they had to do last summer. Who wants to do that? Because now you're starting from scratch. And what's the lost opportunity cost of that? What programs aren't we able to do by when that happens? So let's make that short-term investment. We keep our teachers. Ultimately, we will attract more students because, hey, once again, like I've said before, parents talk, great teachers, parents talk, they'll send their kids to our schools, more revenue, boom. We're gonna do a lot better.
Thank you. And Ms. Tejada.
We've lost teachers to richer school districts, but we've also been able to keep those who are having a hard time staying, but they love teaching. They love their schools. They love their administrators. They love their kids. I know a teacher at Westmoor. He's been there for over 20 years. He said the way he makes it work is because his wife has a job. And so he's able to stay there and teach these kids who like to take selfies with him. So if we raise enrollment, then we can raise revenue. So we have to market how great our schools are. But these teachers who stay, who are dedicated, they have to feel valued. We have to do a better job of that at the district level. And we're having them teach Common Core, so we're giving them better, hopefully enough professional development to be able to do this.
Thank you. And it is getting late, so this will be our last question of the evening. What uniquely qualifies you to be a board member of the Jefferson Union High School District? And we'll start with Mr. Lee.
I'm a parent who cares about these kids. Again, like I said at the beginning, I've seen the success that my daughter has had here. I want to see all these kids have that same kind of success. I'm a financial guy. I can look at these numbers. These numbers don't scare me. So, I think this is a great opportunity for us to do something really cool with this election, and to really start to think a little differently, and to have, hey, I'm a current parent. You get a chance to have a current parent on this board.
Thank you. Ms. Tejada.
Hello? Okay. I'm a current parent too. It's the thing that drives me. Just anytime I feel there are a lot of emotions going on in a board meeting, I always think about how, as a parent, do I respond to this? And that means I'm thinking the way other parents are. What is important to my child and the children in this school district? So, and also, I grew up in this school district. I have ties to it. I love this school district, and I'm glad. I am humble that I'm actually on the board, because it makes me feel that more impassioned to do better for these kids.
Thank you. Ms. Dulaney.
Thank you. In addition to serving on the board for the past 7 years and having the experience to bring to the board going forward, I am a mother of 2 young boys. I'm also a lawyer, and I bring that perspective whenever I make to all of my decisions. I'm not only a rational thinker, critical thinker, as a result of my legal training. I am also very compassionate, and I exercise empathy, and I am patient and very respectful of people, and I believe that more information is better, and I believe in consensus, and I believe in respect.
Thank you. And Mr. Occhipinti.
Yeah, I hope that everything we discussed today kind of distinguishes the strengths we bring to the board, and I think any of us would bring a lot of strengths to the board. But I mean, if you don't know, I'm not a parent, actually. I'm 34 years old. I'm a product of this district. I've been around since I was a teenager, since I was a high school student, through college, through the UC. I went to City College and State as well. I finished up at State, so I returned to come back and support my family in a time of need, and I continue to be a peer counselor, career counselor, a tutor, mentor, anything under the sun that would help a community. And so I think that's something that is missing in many school boards. I think ours is one of them. Being from Daly City too, and being a product of Daly City and Pacifica, but more so Daly City, means a lot, because there are a lot of students who go between both cities. I teach in South City a lot. North County has a lot of similarities. We bring that together, and I feel like bringing that voice bringing the representation of the students here. I see things through your eyes, and parents who understand their students and parents who don't understand your students, I can sympathize because I see them in the community all the time. So that's what I hope to bring.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of the question and answer period. We had so many questions, we weren't able to ask them all. Now the candidates will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. We will be reversing the order from the opening statement. So the first candidate we will hear from is Katherine Zarate Dulaney. Ms. Dulaney?
Thank you. What I had thought in my closing statement, I would say, I actually said just a few moments ago. I am a mother, a lawyer, and I'm also a 12-year Daly City resident. I've been on the board for 7 years because I believe in serving my community, and I'm passionate about our youth. I was on the board well before I had children because I think that it's important for all of our community members to know that we have incredible schools, and I want to be part of that. And I want to be part of improving our schools because it affects everyone. And now that I have children of my own, I make decisions not based on what I believe is good for our students now, but also good, important for our students in the future. If you haven't been at a board meeting, I encourage you to attend. We really benefit from community involvement, participation, and input. As a board member, I ask tons of questions. I am respectful of everybody's viewpoints, and I incorporate that into all the decisions that I make. I'm an independent thinker. I make decisions and make judgment calls based on everybody's input, based on digging for facts. And to the extent that I disagree with people on the board, I'm not afraid of respectfully disagreeing. So far, our board has been incredible in terms of being able to identify what is necessary for our students, for our district, for our teachers, for our staff, and we could do more, and we can improve more. And I'm all about, and I firmly believe that where there is room for improvement, we really need to tackle it. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Nick Occhipinti.
There are a lot of things that I think we can all say. In under 2 minutes, I think the most important things to address are why we're running for board and what we bring to the table. A lot of times I think about all the strengths and different things that we all bring, but I think the most important we bring to the table is who we bring to the table. And the fact that you all showed up here today speaks to that to one end, because you guys are a big part of that. I feel invested in the community regardless of the position I hold. I'm not even a full-time teacher, I'm a substitute, and if elected, I actually have to give up that position. So teaching in other districts would have to be an option. And I'm not even certain that I would get hired being a board member in one district as a teacher in another district. So the goal to me is to actually help the youth in the community. It always has been, and I think education is a big part of that. In case many of you don't know, this is not a paid position. I have a lot of experience in politics. I'm a long-term community organizer and public policy advocate and activist and all these things. Things that get you in trouble sometimes, you guys, in high school, that you should stand up for. Things you see on TV in other states that are happening. Education is one of the defining civil rights issues of our generation, and you are all a big part of that. Regardless of the position you think you hold in the community, you are a part of this board, you are a part of this team. Whether it's a program at Jeff is doing exceptionally well, like the robotics program, the kind of things that every school brings to the table. Westmoor, Terra Nova, and not just Oceana, but Thornton as well, is rarely mentioned. Oceana has a lot to bring to the table, and all of you know the unique position that you guys bring. So when I think about that, I think about the kind of things that we need on the board, and right now education is going under a huge transition, and you hear it in the national narratives in this national election on TV, you're going to hear it in some state narratives, but getting down to it, it starts at the local level, and it starts right here with you, each and every one of you, and your vote does count, and encouraging other friends to think about it, even just to see who's running and getting involved. That is the most important thing, and thank you all for coming out. Please represent. Bye now.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Andy Lee. Mr. Lee.
those of you who know me know I've always got baseball on the brain. You know, we've got a giant opportunity to hit a grand slam with the makeup of this board come November 4th. And it's my honor actually to be sitting up here to discuss these issues with you, to hear your questions, to hear your concerns. I hope that I can serve you well. It is all about you guys there. It's about the kids that are going to come after you. I think about my daughter who's a junior. I think about my son who's in 8th grade. If elected, I will be a board member the entirety of his high school experience. I'm not sure what he thinks about that. I don't think he's thought that through yet. But it really would be an honor and a privilege to be your servant. Thank you.
And we will hear from Rosie Tejada. Ms. Tejada?
Thank you. I was born into this school district. I care about it a lot. My whole family went to schools in this school district. My nephew went to Oceana. I have so many friends. I was thinking about Oceana today, and a lot of my friends worked at Farrell's. I don't know if any of you remember Farrell's, but it was this ice cream parlor that we all went to. And those Oceana kids, they never gave me an extra scoop of ice cream because they're too honest. So, but I just love this school district, and I will do my hardest to always do best by you. I will listen to every stakeholder because you all have a voice, and you all have the right to be heard. And I would, if I'm reelected to the board, I would like to see you there and tell us what you need. Thank you.
Thank you. These were 4 of the 5 candidates running for the 3 open seats on the Jefferson Union High School District Board. On November 4th, please be sure to vote. Encourage your friends and neighbors to vote as well. And now I would ask you to join me in applauding and thanking the candidates for coming this evening. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters and the AFT, I would like to thank everyone for coming and for making this such a wonderful forum. Thank you and have a good evening.